3 days ago, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari says October 1st remains a special date for all Nigerians, as this marks the day when we attained one of the most precious of human desires, freedom. He went on to say that over the years, the country has gone through trials and tribulations, but October 1st is always a day for celebrations. It is a day for thanksgiving, reflection, and rededication. It is also a day for remembrance. We should remind ourselves of the recent journey from 1999 to 2015, when our country happily returned to democratic rule. Those were the first 5 paragraphs of the very long, almost 30 minutes Independence Day anniversary, the longest President Buhari has read since he took office about 2.5 years ago. Let's bring in the CEO at Carrier Asset Management, Johnson Chukwu, into the discussion to see how do we invest in patriotism and leverage the human capital when we are doing political investing. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you. That sounds a little bit, let's put the markets on what you called patriotism, independence, the human elements in the entire conversation. But again, how did you go on October 1st with you?
Well, it was a good day because it re-energized and awakened the flavor, the patriotic flavor we had when we were very young. And then let me tell you, when I was very young, I happened to have grown up in the mid-70s, when I entered primary school in the mid-70s. And there was a song we used to sing. It goes like this: Nigeria is a promised land, Africa is a dear continent. We are marching on to take our place among all the nations of the world. And then though I was coming from the former Biafran Republic, I mean, I was born during the war, and then, though I didn't see the war, but by the time I was growing up, there was so much patriotic flavor, even among the Igbos, that there was no baggage about the war. We were all looking forward to a prosperous country. We were looking forward to a future that boded a lot of prosperity for us. At that point, it was when National Youth Service was introduced. And then when you see those with NYC uniform, it kind of gave you so much excitement. You wanted to go to school, you wanted to do well in school, you wanted to go to university. Fresh graduates were coming home with cars. So it was a country of immense opportunity.
So despite the Civil War, for a very young nation, back then in 1960 or 1967, just about less than 10 years, what do you think was firing that patriotism?
Okay, it was basically the opportunities that were available in the country. At that point, Nigerians felt that if you do your best, if you're hardworking, if you're intelligent, if you're honest, you will succeed. I'm referring to the period when teachers were building houses, headmasters had cars. So it was a country that virtually anybody who was hardworking, who was honest, who was dedicated, had something to take home. And that was firing the flavor. At that point, we were looking forward to Nigeria doing well in every aspect of life, in sports, in entertainment, anything. We were so proud of Nigerians. So 2 days ago, on first, it kind of, when you mentioned the issue of people flying with Nigeria flag, it kind of rekindled that hope that, look, we still have a country that people are so dear, that's dear to people's heart. We still have a country that people want to sacrifice for. We still have a country that people are looking forward that the future will be better than the past. And for me, the key thing is how does government key, like you asked, how does government key into that patriotic flavor and harness the potentials that this population brought for us?
When you hear current U.S. President Donald Trump talked about make America great again. So we say, let's make Nigeria great again. If you look at the last 50 years, then you're talking about around 67, 70 at the end of the war, a little around 50 years, if you discount the years before that. Those hope and aspirations, do you think that capital, for those of you who are investing, who does, I'm sure you know how to invest in human capital, do you think we actually invested over the decades, or do you think the words of this October 1st, 2017 by President Buhari rings very true, that we've gone through trials and tribulations, and then, but of course, this is a time for reflection?
Well, I think it goes beyond whether we invested in human capital. The issue is that Nigeria suffered what you may call arrested development. Beyond the 70s, the country's development stalled. So you found out that the country's population was growing, infrastructure was not growing. Neither are you talking of both social and the physical infrastructure. We're not growing. And that is why the opportunities that people have to express their God-given talent has diminished. So what happened was, at some point, we just froze in terms of development. And I'm referring, when you look back, you talk of human capital. If you look back and you consider the fact that this country used to be the center of educational excellence in Africa, the universities of Ibadan, University of Lagos, UI, University of Ibadan, IFE, UNN, during my years in the university, we had so many foreign students in University of Lagos whose parents said to Nigeria to come and study in Nigeria because the quality of education in Nigeria was comparable to what we had in Europe or America. At some point in the early 90s, the Nigerians who were going to America to study were those who couldn't get admission to Nigerian universities. Nigerians who went to India to study in the early 90s, 80s, were those who couldn't get admission in Nigerian universities because they were not considered to be brilliant enough to get Nigerian admission into Nigerian universities. But now the reverse is the case. So what happened between that time and now? Those are the questions we'll be asking. You see, the key thing is that we've lost opportunities, but Nigerians are still passionate about their country. We need to create those opportunities so that people will express themselves. If you look at the issues that you consider when you talk of making a country attractive, we need to address what are those things that have made Nigeria's ranking in World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Index to be poor. Nigeria currently ranks 125 out of 137 countries ranked under the Global Economic Competitiveness Index. If you go to the World Bank Ease of Doing Business, we rank 169 out of the 190 countries that are ranked. So that will give you a mirror of how we're doing when it comes to making this country a very attractive environment for Nigerian citizens to express themselves in economic engagements.